Welcome back to Money Making Sense, that if money affects your life in any way whatsoever, we're going to talk about it today. It's sort of potato. We are here with Lisbeth Lauderback. She is an curator of archaeology at the Natural History Museum, and also Bruce Pavlik. You are the director of conservation at Red Butte Gardens. And we have been talking about this Four Corners potato that is 10,000 years old, but has just been recently rediscovered. The Indians moved out in that area ages ago, and this potato kind of got lost to time, I guess. And was it you personally, Lisbeth, who found this?
Right, yeah. So we found evidence of this potato being processed on ancient stone tools. But one thing is that Native Americans actually still do use this potato. They grow it in their gardens all across the Four Corners region.
Wow.
So they have been using it for probably since time immemorial, and they still are using it and growing it.
Wow. Okay. So we've been talking about in the previous segment, these are very, very small potatoes. It would be hard. Like, I couldn't just go, I'll have a baked potato for dinner and use one
Right.
of those because they're very small. But we've been talking about perhaps getting it hybridized with another potato, creating a whole brand new one, and that potato would be bigger. But we have hybridized potatoes in the past. So what happened to all the innate potato you were talking about? What happened to it?
Well, that's one of the genetically modified varieties.
Oh, that's not hybridized. That's genetically modified.
That's
okay.
the one where they shut down the gene for creating this asparagine and therefore the cancer-causing acrylamide. That's one, and that one was originally sort of developed, I think, with McDonald's in mind.
Right.
And McDonald's announced that they were going to use it, and there was tremendous outcry, and eventually it was pulled from the market. So it exists, but it is not commercially important at this point.
Okay.
Maybe it will be in the future. I don't know.
The consumers agreed with me, and they spoke out against genetic modifications. Yes. Did we know how it tastes? Like, it may not have caused cancer when you fried it at high temperatures, but how did it taste? Maybe that was the big issue.
No, that was not the issue. You wouldn't be able to taste the differences in these.
Okay.
Again, it is really very precise in the way things are engineered to shut down a single pathway to create this amino acid. So you wouldn't be able to tell which was which.
So speaking of, how does the Four Corners potato taste?
It's really good. It's when you saute it, the inside is fluffy and the outside is kind of crisp. There's a nutty, earthy flavor. So I think it's better than the store-bought potato. I think it tastes better.
Nice. Okay. I'm all about growing my own, and because I do think everything tastes better from your own garden, especially if you've used heirloom seeds of any type. I think that's awesome. This is like the perfect heirloom tuber.
It is, but there is another issue. Besides
Okay.
the fact it creates all these stolons, and so if you plant it in your garden, it's going to be running around everywhere
Right.
underneath the ground. But the other issue is that it, like many other species of plants, contains compounds, chemicals, to retard the tastiness to animals that would otherwise eat it, including us.
Oh.
So, when you leave potatoes, regular store-bought potatoes, out, they turn green, and you know that you're not supposed to eat them then.
Right.
Well, that's one of the compounds called solanine, which accumulates under those conditions, and it makes that store-bought potato taste bitter. Well, these potatoes contain some similar compounds. But, again, the level of those compounds varies between populations. Mm-hmm. So we're trying to find the low solanine populations that would be the source populations for ultimately a commercial Four Corners potato.
Okay.
Now, they're not terribly bitter to us. I mean, we, again, just sort of arbitrarily fried up a batch from some population. We eat them. They taste fine. But you can taste, they are a little bit different. And so before they go to market, you've got to make sure that they contain low levels of these compounds, which are called glycoalkaloids.
Okay. So for russet potatoes, if I bought a 10-pound bag, it cost me like maybe $2-3, something like that, especially around the holidays, they get rid of them. If this went to market, let's pretend I know it's not, but let's pretend it was ready for market right about now. How much do you think these would be selling for in a grocery store?
That's really hard to say because
Yeah.
I think we're dealing with a boutique product at this point.
Okay.
And our hope is that the first people that get a crack at commercialization would be the people of the Four Corners region, would be the original native stewards of this species. So we would have to work out how they would cultivate it, how we'd solve this problem of the stolons to make them easier to harvest. We'd have to work out which populations to draw upon so that we get low glycoalkaloid levels, and then find out how to market them. And so I'm a biologist. I don't really know that much about the production end of things, but I'm sure willing to participate in that. So we can't say what the price would be. It'd probably be much more expensive. But, it's more nutritious. It is a food that is North American, truly North American, of this place.
Right.
An ancient food that, at least in Escalante, has been eaten there for 10,900 years. There's not too many other foods you could claim to know exactly where they were eaten for that long a time period. So, and maybe you would say, maybe the Slot Canyon's Inn in Escalante is the place where they'll be first served. And
Right, which is the location of the archaeological site where the starch grains were first discovered. So that would be a really great situation where you could serve the same food that was eaten there, 10,900 years ago and is still eaten there today.
Oh my gosh.
That would be really neat.
Okay, well, if they can't fix the problem of the stolons, then so here's how you market it. You do it like the truffles, where you have to have the pig that finds the truffles, and you find the dog or the pig that can find the Four Corners potatoes, harvest them that way, and then you can make a buttload of money. I'm all about the money. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, and as well as the Native Americans culturing them, we really want them to return to southern Utah and those communities. Escalante, for example, San Juan County especially. And these occur in Bears Ears National Monument, these potatoes, in very select archaeological sites. So it's part of those places, and those people should benefit as well.
Okay, I'm sorry. So I was talking about Bears Ears, which has been in the national news this last couple of weeks because President Donald Trump just reduced the size of the Bears Ears National Monument 85%. Is part of what he took away from the monument, is that where these potatoes are?
Yes, unfortunately, the two populations that currently grow in the monument, and this is one of them here, it grows in Allen Canyon, those got reduced. Those are no longer part of what's going to be the new monument. So that's unfortunate.
So there's a chance that the mining companies that a lot of people want to move in there could just dig up these potatoes.
Maybe not that as a threat, but one thing that's going to happen for sure is a lot of increased tourism and visitation to these remote places. So there'll be a lot more visitor impact. Okay. And I think what you have to do is, whether the monument is large or small, it needs to be managed very carefully. It's not just about the archaeological sites, the bricks and mortar and all of that. It's that around each one of those places, those sacred places, was an ecosystem that supported people for hundreds, if not thousands of years. And it's those ecosystems, what we call archaeoecosystems, that need to be carefully managed so they're not degraded with increased visitation.
Okay.
Well, and we also need to protect those areas so that Native Americans can go back and, use that land to gather what foods they need. So again, unfortunately, the two populations that we know are no longer part of that monument, and so therefore they're not protected.
That's too bad. All right, so since these have all these stolens that go out, I probably can't grow this in my condo. Like I could just take a potato from you and like put it in a little planter in my condo and have it sprout potatoes for me.
Well, actually, you can. When we have cultivated them this year, we put one tuber in a large pot. I mean, I'm talking 5-gallon pot.
Right.
And what happens is they sprout and the stolons start growing, and then they just grow around and around and around on the inside of the pot looking to get out. And sometimes they come out the bottom of the pot. And all the tubers, the baby tubers, end up on that outside. And so it's real easy to flip the pot over and just brush it, and all those tubers fall out away from the soil. So we know how to cultivate them in that way, but it's pretty small scale. And again, if you were ramping up to commercial, it would have to be a different story.
Okay. All right. Well, if you find a potato missing from your bags, it wasn't me. All right. Well, we're out of time on this, but thank you so much. Lisbeth Lauderback, you are professor of anthropology at the University of Utah, and Bruce Pavlik, director of conservation at Red Butte Gardens at University of Utah as well, and telling us all about this newfound potato that's been around for over 10,000 years. If you'd like to subscribe to my podcast, please go to Apple Podcasts, download them all. You'll never miss another episode.
Thanks for being a Money Making Sense listener. Follow your common sense onto social media. Money Making Sense on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.